Back on it again. Now, let's look at that proposal from that finance committee that is saying that the year-on-year VAT inflationary adjustment should also be taken off that particular commodity, fuel, in the country. Gabriel, your reaction to that? Are they being overly ambitious with what they want to achieve with this particular move?
Sorry, Siva, could you just run that again?
Oh, yeah. So I was asked on this proposal by the finance committee that's saying that the year-on-year VAT inflationary adjustment on fuel should also be expunged so that fuel in the country is VAT exempt. Is that being overly ambitious, Gabriel?
Personally, I still struggle with the concept of this inflationary adjustment across all goods, because in my simple economics, what it does is that it adds to the inflation factor of any product. So literally, the government is shielding itself from inflation by affecting the consumers even more. So in my opinion, it should be, even fuel being such a key product, should be exempt. But there's something that I think one of the leading economists we have, Mr. Kwame Owino, from the Economic Institute, was saying that if you're going to have VAT across all products. That's actually the best way to do it. No exemptions, no lower rates. Just have every product at VAT at 16%, instead of assuming some products are consumed by a certain category of people instead of others. And that might actually allow for better planning, and then maybe lower the VAT rate if you can recover some from the goods that are currently exempt. But anyway, that's really a very long economic discussion. But just something that came to mind, from our earlier discussion on the curfew, think about it. Because Churchill did mention something. If you cut VAT, you would increase consumption. But actually, if the government wanted to increase consumption and recover whatever they have lost, they just need to remove curfew.
Yes.
People travel more. And just like that, you could easily register, from my estimation, 12 to 17% increase in fuel consumption by just removing the curfew. So it's not really as crazy as they want to make it look. But yeah, in terms of the inflation, I think it's neither here nor there. I think as far as these inflationary adjustments go, just exempt them from almost all products. That's the best way.
Pretty much. Now, pre-tax profits for Kenyan banks in the 7 months to July 2021 jumped 53.2%, surpassing last year's earnings for banks' pre-tax profits for the 7 months to July. Now, according to the latest Central Bank of Kenya CBK data, pre-tax earnings in the 7 months, they hit 113.4 billion compared to 112.8 billion posted in the full year results ended December 2020. Now, this comes at a time when industry data points to a reduction in the size of non-performing loans, or the NPLs, and largely in the rise in repayments and property auctions. Now, if you look at that data this morning, I will tell you that everything in the first 7 months of this year, or in the first 6 months of this year, everything is pointing northwards. No need to really talk about the ones that is on a reduction. The ones that is on a reduction is even in the number of non-performing loans in the economy, which was still stuck at 14%. Churchill, when we look at this quote-unquote stellar performance of the banking industry right now, is that an indication that indeed even the entire economy is on a path to recovery?
I like how you put it, stellar performance, and then quote unquote. That's quite telling. But it tells it gives that picture that you're trying to bring out. I don't think it's representative of the economy at all.
Yes.
And the reason why we are seeing these astronomical figures in the banking sector is basically comparing with 2020. Most of the banks, what they did is that they increased their loan loss provisioning. By that, they were just trying to cushion themselves against the uncertainty that was rolling not only the Kenyan market but also the global markets, just because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So in the current calendar year, we've seen that there's been a reduction in the loan loss provisioning. So what happens is now you just see that profit starts ballooning, and I think in the second half numbers, we saw one of the banks having like an 8 times increase in its profit after tax as compared to last year. So that is not a surprise what you're saying, that the numbers in the first 7 months of the year has already eclipsed even the numbers in the full 2020 by this
Yes.
point in time.
Yes.
So it's just because of reduction in the loan loss provisioning. So basically the thing we're saying is just a risk-on sentiment starting to creep in the banking sector. So that just trickles down into the bottom line of banks.
Pretty much. I'll be coming back to you on exactly what those numbers mean, though. In absolute terms, Gabriel, is it a reflection of the performance of the economy in 2021? There's this general word that everybody keeps on saying, well, we are optimistic, well, the numbers look good. How much is this an indicator of the performance of the economy in 2021?
Not much, in my opinion, Simba. So,
Yes.
from where I sit, there's one figure I like tracking, and that's the growth in the loan book. And it's not been stellar, to use your words.
Yes.
And remember, the growth in the rest of the economy would mean we have not significantly, but slightly lower NPLs. And the banks are really, I'm talking about double-digit growth in the loan books. And when I look at the top 5, top 10 banks in terms of asset size, that's not what I'm seeing. Their loan to deposit ratios are still very low. They're still not free or feeling confident to lend to the economy. And for me, that's all the signal I need. And I interact with banks quite a bit, and they're still very, very conservative. So I wouldn't take that to be positive at all.
Yes. All right. Churchill, there's a caveat to that as well, that the Central Bank of Kenya is indicating that due to repayments and property auctions. Is that it? That when you have property auctions there, then you are attaching this to the performance of the economy, then becomes useless.
Interesting. And just talking about property auctions, it's talking about a fragile economy. By the time you flip pages of newspapers on a day like today, you see like 10 to 12 pages of auctions upon auctions.
Yes.
So that's telling us about an economy that is still fragile. So yes, repayments are coming in the sector, but as per what Gabriel has said, we're not seeing that loans are being distributed in as much. And just to give you a flavor, I think the last numbers that we are given by CBK, we're still below double digits. I think it was around 7%.
Yes.
Credit to the private sector, as compared to what the CBK is targeting by the end of this year. They are targeting around 10.5%. I don't think we'll hit that figure by the end of this year. So what is coming out? Yes, there's that repayment of loans. Of course, people have had chances of restructuring their loans. So that is still going on pretty much well. But now the loans that are being given out to new businesses or to businesses, that's is still struggling a bit. What banks are now making as compared to sending to the loans, lending to the risky segment of the economy, they're now lending to the government through the government securities.
Yes.
So you think that component of their asset allocation has been tilted less towards loans, but more towards the government securities. So that's where they are just making their money from. So that should be just telling us an economy that is still struggling as compared to what might come out from the headline numbers.
Yes, Churchill, let's clear it like this then. I mean, the 7 months figures have already eclipsed the 2020 December figures. What is the outlook of this particular industry in light of the fact that we just have a couple of months again to 2022, when we do expect that economic activity again is going to be a little bit subdued?
Well, I think this trajectory will still continue in terms of bottom line performance. I think next month we'll start to see their third quarter numbers.
Yes.
We're still extending the trend that has been there for the first 7 months. I still expect what I mentioned earlier on, the banks continuing lending to the government as opposed to the risky segment of the economy. So those to me are the two key themes in the banking sector as we close this year.
Yes. All right, Gabriel, your outlook as well as we approach the 2022 electioneering period. By the way, we're still talking about an NPL of 14%. Has been with us since 2020. Is that another talking point as well?
I think as long as the government is borrowing, banks are finding new ways to make money, whether
Yes.
it's by one lending to the government or even products that are less risky. So they're either concentrating their business with key customers or finding alternative ways to sort of channel their money without taking on as much risk as they should. So banks are very key to this economy. They will continue to do well.
Fantastic. All right, Churchill, clear like this then. That non-performing loan book, I mean, we feared that it will go all the way more than 16, 17% during the coronavirus pandemic. It did not. In fact, we've been stuck with this number, 14%. Not increasing so much, not reducing so much. Is that a talking point?
It's still a concern nonetheless, compared to where we were pre-COVID levels, which was around 12%. So banks, I think they may find ways of trying to reduce this non-performing loans ratio from the 14% where it's plateaued over the last 18 months or so.
Yes.
So I think that's where the effort should be. But I think as they try to build their loan books, we can see that organically that non-performing loan ratio will come down gradually by just building their loan book.
Pretty much. Churchill Agutu, economist, IC Asset Managers. Thank you very much for taking your time to speak to us this morning at Metropole Television. Same to
Thank you so much, Elijah.
Same to you as well, Gabriel Mwendwa, Investment Associate. Thank you very much for always finding time in your busy schedule, sir.
Welcome, Simon.
Anytime. And that's exactly how we end our Business AM this morning. Take those gentlemen back to the time that you joined us this morning on Business AM at Metropole TVKE across all your social media platforms. Let's get the conversation going on online. Hashtag Business AM. I am at Kiage Simba. Good morning.